Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be a book unhaul. I recently uploaded a video where I reorganized / cleaned my bookshelves. I kind of went through these shelves and then my TBR shelf in my bedroom, and I took off 27 books that I no longer want in my collection. I have 7 unread books that I'm getting rid of and 20 books that I have already read. A lot of the books that I'm getting rid of that I've read already are books that I read literally years ago. I think some of these I read like 10 years ago. It's been so long since I've had a lot of these books. They're books that never really stuck with me, and I'm never going to reread them. As much as I love having my collection of books and having all of these books, I definitely do like getting rid of old ones that I don't love, and I feel like I could give these to people who would actually really enjoy them. I have 2 people in my life that I can actually give books to now, which is great. So I feel like I'm probably going to give some of these to those people. I don't really sell my books. If anything, I would just donate them. I feel like selling them is kind of a hassle, and at the end of the day, I don't really have time for that. So I would rather just donate them or give them to people that I know. And then obviously the unread books are just books I have no interest in reading anymore. I don't think I'll ever read them and I don't want to, so I might as well just get rid of them. I'm going to start with the read books first. So I have Even in Paradise by Chelsea Philpott. I had like this huge phase where I would buy a lot of new YA releases and I would read like all of them. And that is what I did for probably like a good year back in like 2013, 2014. And then I just kind of stopped doing that because I realized how much money I was wasting. I read this so long ago that I don't remember anything about it. I think it follows this very popular, famous family, and this girl becomes friends with one of the kids or something. I don't know. What Happens Now by Jennifer Castle. This is a YA contemporary. Again, never really stuck with me, so there's no point in me keeping it. The Replacement Crash by Lisa Brown Roberts. I actually remember mentioning this in one of my first hauls or TBR videos like years and years and years ago. This is like one of the first books that I mentioned, which is kind of crazy, but this is a YA contemporary. I honestly just bought it for the cover. Then I have Definitions of Indefinable Things by Whitney Taylor. This is actually an ARC that I won from Goodreads. This was a Goodreads giveaway that I won, which is very shocking. I've actually won 2 before, which is kind of cool. At one point, I did want to keep this just because I won a Goodreads giveaway, and I wanted to keep it for like a memory, but I am never going to reread this. I don't remember anything about it, and there's just no point in me keeping it, so I will give it to somebody else. Then I have A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. This I actually bought at a thrift store, so I didn't buy this full price. This is like a gothic supernatural story, and I just didn't really click with the first book, so I never picked up the other 2 books, and I don't plan on continuing the series, so I might as well just get rid of this. I always have like this fear that as I get older, my reading tastes change, and if I didn't like a book 10 years ago, maybe I'll like it now. That's what happened with Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. I didn't like the first book a couple of years ago, and then I reread it last year and absolutely loved it and finished the series. So I have this like odd fear that I could reread some of these books and fall in love with them, but I feel like I should just get rid of them. I think that's why it's hard for me to part with books. I'm going to get rid of The Young Elites and The Rose Society by Marie Lu. I just didn't really enjoy these books, and I kind of went through a fantasy phase, but I didn't really like fantasy, to be honest. A lot of my favorite YA authors were starting to write fantasy series and stuff, And so I convinced myself that I could read them and like them and understand them, but I just didn't. Fantasy is the one thing that sometimes it's so hard for me to like understand and grasp. And this was one of the series that I didn't really understand, but I love the Legend series. That one I really love, but these I'm just going to part with. Then I have Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. This is another YA fantasy series. I read her Anti-Goddess series, which I actually really liked. This was one of her newer releases at the time. It was a really interesting fantasy series. It follows like 3 triplets that are kind of separated, and they all have like different powers and stuff, I think. I know that there's 2 books, there might be 3, but I obviously never continued the series. Then we have Dreamology by Lucy Keating. This is a like YA contemporary magical realism. It's about this girl that dreams and she like falls in love with this boy in her dreams. I do remember thinking that this book was very interesting and different, but I think I liked the idea of this book more than the actual execution. Cherry by Lindsay Rosen, which I believe I've talked about on my channel actually. I think this was a book that I read early on. It's about this friend group of girls that all want to lose their virginity, and they kind of make like the sex pact and stuff. Sex pact? Why can't I say that? Sex pact. I remember somewhat enjoying this and thinking it was a good like coming of age story, but I'm never going to reread it. Changes in Latitudes by Jen Malone. I really enjoyed Wanderlost by this author, and this was the second book of hers that I read, and I didn't really care for this one. I have no thoughts about this book because I don't remember anything about it, but I remember not liking it as much as her other books, so I'm just going to part ways with this one. Sleep No More by April Lynn Pike. This is a YA mystery. I think it's also somewhat like sci-fi maybe, or fantasy. Nope, paranormal. Sorry, paranormal. The female character is an oracle and she has to find this killer. YA mysteries are kind of hit or miss for me, and this was definitely a miss. Then I have Anne and Henry by Dawn Ias. This I was really excited about when it first came out. I needed this so badly back in like 2015. This is a modern retelling of King Henry and Anne Boleyn. It sadly just didn't do what I wanted it to do. I thought it was gonna be like very epic and intense, and it just disappointed me. The concept was so interesting though, like a modern Anne and Henry retelling. That is so interesting, and I'm surprised no one else has tried to do this. Maybe people have and I just didn't know, but I am finally parting ways with this. I'm getting rid of Fated by Alison Noel. This I have had for years. I bought this I think at like Superstore, and it was like one of the first books that I think I bought from Superstore. Like I have very vivid memories of buying this book and reading it. This came out back in 2012, which is kind of crazy. And there is a huge part of me that like wanted to keep this for the memories. This one I've tried to part ways with before and I just wasn't successful because I have memories of buying this and reading this. Even though I don't remember anything about this, I just remember not understanding a single thing about it because it was just like paranormal fantasy and it was so confusing to me. I kind of want to keep it for the memories, but I feel like I should just get rid of it. Then I have Jellicoe Road by Melina Marchetta, or is it Marchetta? I'm not sure. This I am parting ways with. I didn't really like this. I didn't really understand it. I remember a lot of people hyped this book up and the author in general. I just didn't really understand it, and I feel like this should go to somebody who will appreciate it because I know this is a very well-loved book. I'm getting rid of The Sacred Lies of Minnow Bly by Stephanie Oakes. This was also another book I won for a Goodreads giveaway. I kind of just kept this for the memories for winning a Goodreads giveaway, so I'm just gonna part ways with it now. Kiss Kill Vanish by Jessica Martinez. This I read back in 2014. I don't remember anything about it. I believe it is kind of like a mystery contemporary. I think I purely kept this because the author is Canadian, but it's just time to get rid of it. Illusions of Fate by Kirsten White I'm getting rid of. This, I don't remember anything about it either. I think this is like a historical young adult story. It might be like paranormal too. I don't remember. And I don't have an interest in rereading it ever. And then the last two red books that I'm getting rid of are Trial by Fire and Firewalker by Josephine Angelini. I picked these up because I really liked the author's Star-Crossed series, which is a Greek mythology series, and I wanted to continue reading her books. I bought these, read these, didn't really like them, didn't really understand them, didn't care for them. I believe they follow witches. It's also about like alternate dimensions and stuff. From what I did understand, it was interesting, but I have no interest in rereading these books. I also believe there is a third book, but I never continued. Now for the 7 unread books. The first one I have is Dance Upon the Air by Nora Roberts. I did a video I think a year ago where I read 3 Nora Roberts books, and I honestly only liked one of those, and it was the book that she writes under her pen name. I think it's J.D. Robb, the Naked in Death series. That first book I really liked. I gave it 4 stars. I plan to eventually continue that series. However, the 2 other books that I read by her in that video, I didn't really like. I gave like 3 stars. And I read those based on a lot of your recommendations and the ones that you said I should read. And this was also a recommendation. I wasn't sure if like which ones I wanted to read, so I bought like 4. And because I didn't really like the other 2 that I read by her, I've just decided to part with this one. I personally am not a huge fan of third-person romances. That's, from what I gather, most of what Nora Roberts writes. So I'm just not interested in reading this, at least. I'm open to maybe reading something else, but as of right now, I just have no interest in reading this one. Then I actually have 2 books that I was sent by Entangled, and I just don't think I'm going to read them anymore. I have The Road King by Abigail Owen. This is a paranormal dragon shifting romance, I think. At one point I was kind of interested in reading it, but so much time has passed that I don't think I'm going to read it. I'm also looking at it now and it's third person, so yeah, definitely getting rid of that. And then I also have The Poet by Lisa Renee Jones. I did want to read this because it is a mystery romance. Actually, I don't even know if there's romance in here. I'm assuming there is. I don't know. I'm not really into mysteries anymore. It's just not something that I gravitate towards. Like 5 years ago, I definitely would have read some mysteries, but as time goes on, I don't think I'm going to read it. The Dark Days Club by Allison Goodman. This is a YA historical fiction. It's just so long, and I'm very like hit or miss with YA nowadays, and I just feel like I'm not going to want to dedicate my time to this. I have heard mixed things about this over the years. I just don't think I'm going to read it. I don't think I'm going to sit down and take the time to read this YA story. I am officially getting rid of Without Merit and Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. I've had these books for years, and I've kind of gone back and forth on whether I want to read them or not. And I've officially decided that I just don't want to read them. I don't want to bother. I would rather give these to somebody who will actually read them and appreciate them. I've officially decided that I no longer want to read Colleen Hoover, so I'm just going to part ways with these. The last book is a book that I have owned for a very, very long time. I think this is actually like one of the first books that I showcased on my Bookstagram before I started BookTube. I remember buying this book for a Boxing Day sale because Indigo had their hardcovers for 30% off, I think, and this was one of the books that I bought. I still have not read it, and I will never read it. And that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagishihara. I am probably totally butchering that. I'm so sorry. I occasionally read some just general fiction and some adult fiction, and obviously I've heard very good things about this, but as time has gone on, I've heard that this book is very traumatic. At this point in my life, I don't want to read about trauma. I don't want to read about something that is so depressing and so heartbreaking and so hard to read. I don't know like what is so traumatic in this book, but I just heard that it is very traumatic. I believe I had just read The Secret History, and I love that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I was wanting something kind of similar, and this does follow like 4 classmates, so I think that's why I picked this up. But I really don't want to read anything that's going to make me sad or put me in a really, really bad mood, so I am going to get rid of this. I think I'm actually just going to donate this. I'm not going to give this to anybody that I know because I don't think that's a good idea. So I think I'm just genuinely going to donate this one. So that was it for my book Unhaul. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I'm getting rid of and what you thought of them, or let me know any books that you have gotten rid of recently. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!